Hey, listeners, and welcome to the You Are Epic podcast. This is where we honour the people who've helped build not just our industry, but our communities. I'm Angela Hucker, and I am so glad that you're here. So, I'm taking the time to sit down with people who've been in construction for years, people who've been through the ups, the downs, and everything in between. You're going to hear real stories of resilience, growth, and moments that shaped who they are. This podcast is for those that want to learn more from people who've been walking this path for some time, and they're helping to lift up others and quietly making a difference along the way. It's also to show you that your journey matters and your voice matters. And in case you've forgotten, you are epic. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Tracey Mitchell, an award-winning health and safety leader with extensive experience in high-risk industries. Known for her ability to drive cultural change and promote inclusive safety practices, Tracey blends sharp compliance expertise with a people-first mindset. She's the recipient of the 2023 NAWIC HSEQ Award for her work in founding a women's support group in construction, and she's on a mission to create safer, smarter, and more inclusive workplaces where everyone thrives. So it's lovely to have you join us, Tracey. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Angela. It's been great.
No, it's awesome. So the one question I always start with everyone, and it's because I am so curious about this. How did you get started in this industry?
Um, I was looking back on my induction card and it says 2006. So
Okay.
um, always had a passion in working with my hands, and I started in the industry as a Peggy. One of my housemates, he worked on Eastlink, and I said, "How do I get into this?" And he goes, "Do this, do this." So I went and got my white card and hassled a recruitment agency or a labour hire company until they hired me. Yeah, the world became my oyster after that.
Okay. So how did you then, from going from a Peggy to now, winning awards for, HSEQ, how did that kind of evolve?
So I was on Eastlink for 2 years, and when that finished, one of the supervisors asked me if I'd come and work for him for John Holland for a rail project. So I went there as a Peggy slash EWP operator, traffic controller, Bobcat operator. I was a jack of all trades, basically working there. And then I got a passion. I met a female. She was a safety advisor, and I don't know, it just inspired me. And so I put my hand up to be the HSR for that project. The boys elected me in, and I've found my purpose in life. It's a passion. Sometimes it's not rewarding, but yeah, I know it's something I'm good at, and I can make a difference. And I just love it, regardless of the fallback sometimes it can have on you.
So what's the sort of things that you love about being in that space?
The cultural change, engaging with the workers and seeing their frustrations and the push, especially when a job is at its peak and
Mm.
then as coming to the end as well, but supporting them to be able to still maintain a safe environment for them to work in, and also supporting mostly the supervisors to educate them how they can drive their workers to still do the same job, but with less stress and more accuracy and in a safer way with less injuries.
Mm. Now, as a woman, you and I are the minority.
Yeah.
So what kind of barriers have you faced in this space?
Very early days, there was a big barrier with the older gentlemen. Like, it's good to see this generation is so much different to 20
Mm.
years ago, because it was that mindset, I've done this for 20 years, like climbing the side of scaffolds and all that sort of thing. But also getting the older ones on board, that because, as you know, 20 years ago, men don't like being told what to do by women.
I don't think they like that now anyway. So,
Yeah, so you've got to, I had to learn a way that wasn't condescending, or that I knew better how for them to do their job. When I don't, I just know what they should be doing safer. So it's engaging them there. I'm there to support them, not to get them into trouble or penalize them for doing something, but just educating the repercussions if something failed.
and that would have been quite growth opportunity, I imagine, with being like having to learn those skills, those communication skills of how to communicate with them to not come from that place. Because there are a lot of HSE advisors who come from a place where they're like authoritative and, kind of police-like as well. And then, you being a woman and working in that space to make sure that you can do your part and keep the guys safe as well, but then be able to communicate in a way where, not
I'm one of them.
having, yeah, that you're on board with them and that you're actually trying to achieve that, which would have been quite an interesting experience for you, I imagine, about how to actually achieve that.
100%, and that still happens every now and then. You get the odd guy going, "You safety," you come here and you point the finger and then you walk away. But the way I like to work, I don't dictate to them. I explain to them the reasoning, and I don't walk away either. I stand there and help them find the solution, and that's the key difference, I think.
Mm,
You can say someone's doing something wrong, but if you don't educate them of why and the repercussions it could potentially have, and help them find a solution, you're not going to have their support or them to believe in you or trust in you to listen and follow your lead. Do you know what I mean?
mm. And I think that's a key difference is that you're not telling, you're actually working with them.
Yeah, exactly. And there are moments where things are a bit hairier and you can't be 100% compliant. And if there's moments that I visually see it and I'm like, you need to be practical as well.
Mm,
And that's in a court of law, reasonably practical. And it's like, so if any time there was anything a little bit hairy, I'd stand there and watch them and make sure they don't go over that line where no, now you need to pull back kind of
mm,
thing. Also know they need to get the job done. And sometimes the way they do it is safe for them, but in compliance, potentially not. But
yeah.
knowing that line where it's okay, you need to stop, or I pull them back in a bit and say, guys, okay, now it's getting too much. We need to reassess and work out something safer to do.
So have you had some standout hairy moments that you've had to navigate?
I've caught guys doing the absolute wrong thing, and if it was anyone else that was wanting to get a tick on their job title,
Mm,
would report them. I'm one, I'll give you a warning, and I also advise them that if I see them again doing that same act that they were doing, I
mm,
would have to report them then. But unless it's severely and they've put someone else in danger, yeah, I would report it. Obviously, it goes on the severity of what they're
mm.
doing.
Yeah, of
But I
course.
also like to give them that opportunity to do it better next time instead of
Yeah.
just pointing the finger, because you don't learn. They don't get lessons from that.
No.
Um, Pulling them down and having that conversation, I think, is more beneficial than writing them up or.
And it's kind of like that approach is like making them consciously aware, hey, that's not okay. I'm bringing it to your attention, but don't do it again because next time, there will be some repercussions if something happens. So it is a bit of that awareness and education piece as well as to I'm bringing it to your attention. This is why. Don't do it again. So
Yeah, and I think there's too much, especially in the safety field. It's dictated, don't do that. This is the procedure or this is your process. But they don't explain the repercussions that potentially have, apart from injuring themselves and everything else. And sometimes if I get a little bite back, I always turn around and just say, well, mate, the job's not worth me going to your family and saying, oh, they thought that was more important than you coming home to them. And that
yeah,
sort of triggers them a bit. And if some don't have a family and they're more money orientated, I tell them what the potential fine could be. And
yeah,
you've
yeah,
got to play your audience and
yeah. That's it. And it's being able to read the people who you're dealing with and how you communicate with them.
100%. And they know you're not, well, I feel like I've gained that respect from them, that if I do ask them to stop, they don't question it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Or I don't get lip back or anything like that, because I work with them, not against them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a key difference. It's that whole thing of, we're in this together. Let's work together, and it's not a you and me kind of mentality of how you're approaching it.
Yeah.
So being a female, because I know the challenges that I've faced, and I'm curious to hear like what kind of challenges you have faced as a female in this industry and how have you overcome them?
I think proving myself, I guess, from the very get go, like, and probably every female that's out there,
Mm,
they drive harder, they work harder because they have to prove themselves that they can do this job. And like the guys today, they're great, but even at my last project, there was girls working and they were chippies or whatever. And I love that the guys wanted to be helpful and they go, oh, let me do it. And they're like, no, I've got it. And I don't know if they want to prove that they can do it or that's a major thing of it because they don't want to feel like they're the weaker link. Do you know
mm,
what I mean? So you do your best. So that challenge, well, I don't know if it's a challenge because I don't know. I was raised up with three uncles, so I was probably more of a tomboy, and could cop as good as I give. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'd muck around with the guys, and I think there's some women that I've met, they needed to put their mum at home or coming into an industry where there's a lot of swearing and stuff.
mm,
It's like you just got to suck it up because that's the industry. They can be demoralizing or whatever to female, but their general talk, it's no different to going to the pub. You're not going to stop there and go, guys, can you cut down your language?
mm,
Like, and there were situations like they were swearing, they weren't being derogatory to women. So there's a difference. If I heard that they were being derogatory towards women or talking about women, I would I would speak up and say that's enough. Like, I had an example. Something happened, so I instead of making it personalized, I got the company to HR to come and do a whole toolbox on code of conduct and for people to be mindful. If you wouldn't say it to your mum, your daughter, or your wife, then you don't say it to someone at work, kind of situation. So it was very broad and it wasn't
mm,
personalized, and certain people weren't feeling like they were pinpointed or it
mm.
was directed at them. It was directed at everyone on site.
And I think that's something that happens quite commonly in the industry is that they're in this environment, and because it is male dominated, and there is a lot of machoism and bravado and, a lot of ego that goes on as well, because, it's like a lot of, from my time, I've seen it's a lot of competition for who's the alpha male as well. So, um, and then it's actually about bringing it back and making it relatable to them. So exactly what you did. Well, and I always say, every single one of them have a significant female in their life. And like you've said, whether that's your wife, your mother, your daughter, your sister, whoever it is, would you actually treat them like that? And then that kind of makes it like, oh, well, probably not. So why would you treat another female like that? So,
Yeah, and I have seen the change from when I started to today. Men are very different and they're very more reserved on being that bogan per se. Do you know what I mean? Like they are conscious of it, or it's probably become repetition now that they're not conscious of it. They've just
yeah.
changed their mannerisms, which is beautiful to see over the years, the transition.
Well, the thing is that men at their core, when you look at things, is that, they are the protectors, and that's something that is actually instilled in who they are. And it's just, I don't know what happens when they get into these environments and they become animalistic, really. So, but they do have that nature about them if they're given the opportunity to actually show that as well. And yeah, and I know they can be quite protective of females in an environment like what you said about coming up to the chippies and, would you like me to do that and stuff. And but us being women, where it's like we do have to prove ourselves, like, hey, we are capable and we can do this. And, we're not here to be a token female, like we want to equally contribute as well. So, but it's quite a balancing act, actually. So,
It is, and probably the one thing I'd say to girls that were starting in there, because I have seen girls they don't speak up.
mm,
Speak up because they will love it.
mm,
They will love you to be your confident self. Like, you don't need to shy away. And the one key thing, and that's why I started that Women's in Construction group. When I started that project, none of us looked at each other to go into pre-start. Like, everyone just had their head down. And once that group started and they met each other and got to know each other by name, the morale changed in them, and just walking through site or whatever and stopping having a chat. And I think that's key for even their mental health, to have that inclusiveness, not just with the boys, but with other women on site as well.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear a bit more about that because that was just I heard about it. You speak about that at the Women in Construction Summit, and what you've created is really unique and innovative, and it's something that actually needs to be adopted on a broader scale. So I'd love to hear how that kind of came about, what prompted you to do it, and what the kind of like you sort of touched on it there about, they were holding their heads up and they were speaking, but what kind of end results also came out from doing that?
It's probably started because years ago, before I even knew about NAWIC or Women in Construction forums, I always said there needs to be a Women in Construction. And years ago, I had this little fairy idea I should start a Women's in Construction company. There's several now, but that was like years ago, a beautiful thought in my head.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like, even being in the industry for so long. You go to a new project and new faces, you do put your head down until you get to know personalities, and then your head rises. And it's probably easier me being in an office, though I'm out on site as well. But building that relationship with the supervisors, having those conversations at pre-starts or in the office about swims or works that's coming up, and what processes they need to put in place. I don't think women in construction, outside of their immediate maybe 5 guys that they might work with, have that opportunity to branch out, because you have a very limited time. You have smokers, so you go to smoker and you try to maintain that relationship in the group that you have without expanding broader. So giving that women, and I do think every major company should have that opportunity. You need to have someone that can drive that and drive it in the right way, and it not being, because when it first started, there was banter going, oh, why do women have a group? Like, why don't we have a group? And some of the older women would bite back and go, well, this is your group. We're a minority. Like, we don't have everything that yous are being handed to. We have to work for it. Or legislation has to change for us to be given that opportunity. So in those groups, we introduced each other. We spoke about our roles. Where did we come from? The older women were a great support for the younger ones. They had their backs, and like if they needed someone to talk to, and just finding resources out there, because they didn't know about, like, even parents will leave for apprentices and things like that. They were told they weren't entitled to that when it comes, and all this sort of stuff. So I got guest speakers in to talk to them from like different unions, even what they have to offer. It was lucky that we found out there was like this little pocket of funding that was available to upskill women, regardless whether they were directly employed or subcontracted. So all these girls that were subcontracted, they put in what they wanted to upskill, and the project paid for them. They spoke to their companies. One paid for their day's labor, and we paid for their training. Put them in like mental health, first aid training, because I think women, we are nurturers. I've noticed, even being a mental health first aider myself, men struggle to talk to each other about personal stuff, and men were more inclined to just have that general conversation and open up to females. So that was a really positive step as well. What else did we do? Just catching up for that hour. Sometimes it'd go for an hour, sometimes it'd go for half an hour. And any new women that come in, they got told about the program and would come and join. And the only thing that made it successful was they were given the hour to walk off their job. The hardest ones were and I had a little pushback, were TCs, because they manned a gate. and trying to find someone
Yeah.
else to replace them to go for a little bit. And that was more of a push from the subcontractor. But I had the backing of management, and they made sure that that was covered for them. And then there was little talks about why can't you do it after work? And it's like, but that's people have lives after work. I mean, a lot of us are mothers. A lot
Yeah.
of us go home and do housekeeping, do the cooking. They're not going to make an extra half an hour outside of work hours to just have that moment.
So
To
how did you get management buy-in with this?
to be honest, I think I had the support from the unions as well. But I think the upper management, they had buy-in because they all had daughters.
Ah, yes.
So I didn't know that at the start. I found that way down the track that
Yeah.
yeah, they all had, well, the two key ones that drove it from up and allowed that space had daughters, young daughters, and
Mm,
they wanted change, obviously, because if they chose, and they even said if they chose one to come into construction, they want a safe environment, like
mm,
everyone does.
yeah. Yeah. So they created the space where you could come for an hour during work time and, get together and support each other and help learn about resources that were available and a bit of training and stuff as well.
Yeah, so in my own time, like after work, I'd look up anything women's health and I would like copy it and I'd print them out so I had something to walk away with. Like just different example, like different signs of anxiety, which even the older ones come back and they go, wow, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that that feeling in my body is known as anxiety and stuff. And
Mm.
just women's health and breast cancer awareness. Like we all have like prostate cancer awareness and posters for men. The first year I didn't see any breast cancer posters up. So when it come breast cancer month, I had them up everywhere.
Yeah.
um, and even in pre-starts because it needs to be awareness because I can guarantee you there's a lot of men out there that have
Yeah.
had wives that have been touched with breast cancer as well.
Correct. Yeah. And it's making them aware as well that this is actually stuff that women go through and this could be your wife. So,
Hopefully, even having women in the industry, it's encouraged them to be better males at home. I don't know, the
mm,
transition, like realizing not to take women for granted because we are there, but we're also, it's time for us to be seen and heard.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting you touched on about how it was just that shift with the guys as well, because the women are there and they had done their first aid and their mental health training and how that kind of created a space where the guys felt a bit more comfortable to talk about their issues as well, because this is something that's really desperately needed in the industry to help with those mental health issues that the guys are dealing with.
100%. And I think because I guess they do put a lot of pressure on themselves when they don't need
Mm.
to. Trying to get through to them, money isn't everything.
Yeah.
Their families just want them to come home at the end of the day. Like, and that was another key thing. There was women, and I hope other women know that out there and support and get it out there. Flexible hours. It's a legislative requirement for women to be allowed flexible hours in a lot of, especially these big projects. There
Mm.
is a clause. There was one girl there. Was a single mum of two girls, and she was there at 6 and leaving at 5:30, and it started impeding on her daughter's mental health.
Mm.
Um, and she was too scared to ask for to finish work earlier so she'd get home by 3:30 so she would have time with her kids and stuff like that. Or if she wanted one day off during the week, but if she in the industry, if you take one day off during the week, you're less likely to get the set day shift.
The
So
Saturdays.
I had that conversation with not so much the subcontractors, and this is where the push needs to be driven.
Mm.
The big companies are good for it, but the shitty stuff that comes with women is from these smaller subcontractors.
Mm.
They
Mm.
protect their bullies, even though they report it. And then women, when they find out it's reported and nothing happened, makes more women not report it because then they get penalized for it
Yeah.
or victimized or isolated or relocated to another job or get less hours. the drive needs to be pushed on these smaller subcontracted companies. And I guess that's a big drive for me, because I saw a girl that had an apprenticeship and she left it because she wasn't supported by the company. I really want to be an advocate that they will be safe regardless.
So what would you tell women who are listening about, maybe some tools or techniques or tips or something that you could pass on to help them?
Be you, don't change who you are. Stand up for yourself, because if you don't stand up for yourself, you will be a pushover, and they
Mm,
will think that they can, and say go do the shitty jobs or whatever.
mm,
Let them know that you want to learn. Let them know you want to use a tool, or want to further yourself, because that's what I did. I said this is what I wanted to do. And I was like, when I wanted to be a HSR, I went to the supervisor. I said, I want to nominate myself. And then I was so passionate about it. And then I asked, I worked to be a safety advisor, and I had that support from the company I worked with, and
mm.
proved myself. And yeah, they supported my career from the start.
Well, and it's also about calling out the behaviors as well when it does happen.
And if you don't feel comfortable, go speak to someone that's in management and talk to them on the side, or even ask to speak to the higher companies, HR, or someone, because you can have those confidential
Mm.
conversations, and they will guide you in the best way to deal with it if you don't want to go public about it.
So that's if you're working for a subcontractor who's working on a large project with a large principal contractor, that they can actually use those avenues to go and talk to the people who are with the principal contractor to let them know there's some issues.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's how the girls got support from me, because they told me. And if you don't feel like going to your supervisor, go speak to someone in safety, because they will
Mm.
support you. It's a part of their role.
Mm. And it's a
And if
safety
you
issue.
don't, exactly. And that's the one thing about that group. They brought up issues, but they didn't want to raise them individually. So I said to him, like, I won't tell them where it comes from. This is a collective. And most of the time, I wouldn't even say, I would just action it.
Mm.
So get that buy-in, because if it does come from a collective, women are more open to speak about the issues that they're addressing on site.
And I think one of the things that I've heard quite frequently is that as a female, because you are the minority, you actually think you're the only one dealing with the issue as well.
Yeah. And you can feel like that, because you feel like you're one person amongst these 100 men, and you
Yeah.
do feel small, and you do feel like you don't get heard. But between every 5 or 10 men, or maybe not so, but in your work group, you might have 5 women out of your 50.
Mm.
Use each other for that leverage.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Now, I understand as well you've done a little bit of FIFO work as well.
Yeah, yes, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
And so where was that and what were you doing?
I worked at several different places. I worked in a refinery down near Bunbury, then went up to Cape Lambert in Karratha on a marine job. I've worked at BHP, Rio Tinto, jack of all trades.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
Yeah,
how did you find the FIFO like life? Because it's a different life that most people don't understand until they've done it.
100%. And then it's totally different again when you're in safety, because
Yeah.
you go to the wet mess, and a lot of people don't want to open up and talk about their banter and stuff,
Yeah.
or maybe stuff that they did at work that they probably shouldn't have in front of safety. And I used to always say to them, like, I'm not at work now, mate. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it happen. But then my safety hat will come on, and I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like, what are you
Yeah.
really thinking of
Yeah. Yeah.
doing? You just have to have one whole line, and it's got you. But yeah, it did get a little bit lonely, especially being in safety, because
Mm.
there is that segregation back then. This is over probably 15 years ago,
Mm.
um, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I'm not sure. And being a female, yeah, it's a bit different. Like, probably even back then, you didn't see really girls out in the field. You'd see them
No.
as cleaners, or
Yeah.
kitchen hands, or behind the bar and stuff, but actually, or office staff, but
Yeah.
actually being out in the red dirt,
Mm.
there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot. Yeah.
So how did you manage that isolation and loneliness?
Well, you go to bed early for one.
Yeah, yes, you
um,
do.
I would have dinner, I'd go to the gym for a bit, and then I'd go and sit at the wet mess and try and mingle with the team that I was with. And that did happen. Like, I'm not going to say it was that lonely. I guess there was some areas it made it even harder because of internet service back then was terrible. So sometimes your phone wouldn't work. But building the relationships with the people that you work with
Mm,
is really important for your your sanity
it
and
is.
your mental health and theirs as well. Like there was one job that made me realize, and I went in my own time and did a couple of counseling courses, and this was well before mental health became a thing. Because I was speaking to one guy and you could see he was down. Like you get to know your people and
Yeah,
you could see the change in people. And he was just flat one day, and I'm like, "Is everything right?" And his daughter turned 16, so Dad's phone call at night at a certain time was no longer a priority, and that was affecting him.
yeah.
So I tried to reassure him, mate, she's 16. She's not daddy's little girl, even though she's your little
No.
girl.
Yeah,
Um, she'll call you. It's not like she's not there.
yeah, yeah.
Your time frame's going to be a bit different.
And the thing is, it is those little things that actually can impact the FIFO workers as well, that because you are separated and, you're doing these, potentially long stints as well when you're working away. So especially 12 years ago, I mean, you probably weren't on the greatest of rosters, I imagine. So
No, I was 3 and 1.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you just have to have one little pebble go wrong at home, and your time there feels like a lifetime.
Drags.
Like, and your mental state, and you don't know what's really going on, and you're not just a half an hour drive home. It's like, okay, well, especially in Bunbury, it was a 3 hour drive to Perth, and then it was another 3 hour drive. Like, especially in emergencies or if someone's sick, like you go out of your mind.
Yeah.
Speak up and talk because people do and have experienced that, and sometimes it's good to hear other people's stories.
And because they do become like you are, like you're all family because you're all away together, you're all supporting each other, you're all living together, like they actually become an extended family for you. So that's where when you said you picked up about that, because you can sense the change in people.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even my last project, there was a guy and he was always bubbly. He was Canadian, and I watched him for 2 days in a row at pre-start, and he just had his head down and flat. So I waited till one after the last that pre-start, and I was like, "No, I'm going to ask him if he's okay." And then when he went to get up, and I just pulled him aside, and I'm like, "Is everything all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Oh, I've just seen you a bit flat." He goes, "No, no, I'm good." He goes, "I've just been really tired." And then a few hours out in the field, he come up and he gave me a hug. He goes, "Thanks for actually asking me if I was okay." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you just weren't yourself."
Yeah, yeah. So from a safety perspective, with the I'm love to hear more about your thoughts, like with this FIFO space. What could people do to help themselves in those environments? Because it's a different world that a lot of people don't understand. And I'm just mindful, like with a lot of the projects that are coming up, they are regional and rural. So it's going to take a high volume of regional and rural workers. And what sorts of things could people do to help support themselves?
One, stay active, even though if you're tired at home, don't sit in your head as soon as you get home from work because you do overthink, and then the little things become mountains.
Mm,
And when they're not, don't be scared to reach out to someone and just have that conversation because the more you talk about it, the less it sits in your head.
mm,
And don't overdrink.
yeah,
Know your limit because the guys, even out on FIFO, they were like, okay, these are four drink. Say if it was Jack Daniels, they knew their limit was four for them to be able to blow under
yeah,
the next day. But more so, the more you drink, it's a depressant, and
mm,
it does get you in your head, and then you can get emotional, and sometimes it will put you into that dark place. If you don't talk about it, it's really hard to come back from. So
mm,
and it is hard to talk to someone, but it's the biggest and the hardest step that will get you out of potentially a dark, dark place. But it's not all dark. They are fun times.
Yeah.
If you get invited out to go and have a game of golf, I guess rural would probably be a bit easier to go all down in a carload and go to the movies or
Mm,
to the local pub and have a counter meal or something like that. Just don't isolate yourself.
mm.
Be the key thing. Don't isolate yourself.
Which is really important because that's where you can get in your head a bit and it's not healthy then because it is a bit of a spiral and it can spiral very quickly.
100%. And trust me, I've done that. Like if something wasn't good at home, I would be in a massive headspace
Yeah.
until I made contact with home. But
Yeah. Which is understandable because especially when you're away and you've got other things happening, because life still happens while you're working away. Like, all the day-to-day things still go on as normal and with your family and, everything at home and, if a washing machine breaks or all those sorts of things as well. So
100%. And then your mind also can make up stories. Oh, they're not answering the phone. You think, what the hell are
yeah,
they doing? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
um, just keep telling yourself, don't get stuck into that cycle of thought. Just say, no, that's not happening. There's something else. She'll contact me or he'll contact me when they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled with that a
Mm,
lot years ago. If I couldn't get a hold of someone, and I'd start to spiral a bit, and then
mm.
yeah, that's probably something to be really aware of and very conscious about, I think.
Yeah. Because that's the thing is that we go, okay, they know that I'm working a 12-hour shift and I'm going to be calling at these times. And then you call and they don't answer. And it's like, why aren't they waiting by the phone? They should be waiting by the phone for me.
Yes,
So,
yes, 100%,
yeah.
100%.
And then you start making up these stories. Well, what are they up to? And are they out? And who are they with? And blah, 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 like all the stuff. So,
Yeah. And it could be as small as, oh, the washing machine broke and I was at the laundromat, or I forgot my phone, or I broke my phone, or like
yeah.
this whole scenario just starts waffling in your head.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, look, we're great at that, aren't we? Let the
Yeah.
let the mind just run wild. So
100%.
So what I'd love to hear is what's if there's a standout moment for you, what's one of those like really standout moments that you're super proud of all your time of being in the industry? Does anything jump to mind? Something that you're like, oh, I'm so proud, like I did that. And it doesn't need to be a big thing. It could be something small. It could be, like you stopped someone from doing something unsafe, or, the amazing group that you set up for those women and helping see how it changed their lives and the culture on the work side as well. And I know you're a very humble person and you're probably not forthcoming in admitting any of this stuff, but
The ultimate like highlight of my career was that women's group. And I actually never thought anyone paid attention. To even being nominated for that award absolutely blew my mind. But the one that probably highlights, and I've probably said it in interviews, and it was the marine job at Cape Lambert. There was one guy who goes, "You bloody safety, you come here and you just dictate what's wrong, but you don't bloody help." And I stopped it and I said, "Do you see me walking away?" I said, "All you have to do is blah, 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 blah." And then that same group, when I had to do a swims review, it was very vague. So I pulled them all in and I said, okay, we're going to sit down together. And he's like, blah, blah. And I was like, no, like, tell me what, instead of this dictating to you what you're doing, I said, you tell me what your first step to that job that you're doing. And got them to tell me the hazards and what controls they were going to put in place. And then if they were missing something, then I said, you need to put this in place to prevent doing
mm,
this.
mm,
And the guy that was a pain in my ass, he became a massive advocate and broke swims like a professional. Like he was so focused and did his job and wrote up swims, right? Like that was probably a pivotal moment. It was like, see, you can make a difference and
yeah,
change people's. It's just how you engage with them. And yeah, that was probably one thing that's really stuck in my head. The seeing
yeah.
the cultural change and that I'm there to support them, not to work against them.
And I love that. And it's about actually investing that time to sit with them and work with them and, support them and let them know they're supported and let them actually, you're empowering them as well, like to bring out the best in them. So,
Absolutely. And I don't even think it's taken me out of my time. I don't know. I love it. I love seeing that change and that they're being able to, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Teaching
yeah.
someone to be able to achieve that and not dictated. And I think the moment you dictate to someone, you just get your back up and you just say,
Yeah.
like,
Well, it's not coming from the right space because you're coming from a place that is like from a superiority place that, I'm better than you and I'm going to dictate to you. Whereas you're approaching it like I'm your equal and I'm here to support you and help you. So,
I am. The only difference is I've done training and I've done it for so long. It's just I don't even have to think about it. And it's with supervisors too. I know they're busy, but I still think they don't get enough training
mm,
in the safety aspect of it all. Because I can see I don't know if I could be a supervisor because I don't have that particular trade. But once you do it long enough, you don't even think about that you're doing it. Like even when I'm out with friends and I see a construction job or
yeah,
something going on, I'm like, oh, look at this freaking idiot.
yeah,
He's got no harness on and he's like 10 meters up and they're like, what?
yeah, 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 yeah,
And now I've got to get them looking at scaffold and stuff. And
yeah. But that's what you're attuned to as well, because that's how you're programmed is because that's the nature of your work. So it just becomes like habit for you now. So
yeah, without thinking.
yeah.
So yeah.
And that's the thing when you drive around, like I remember, working on some projects and safety was instilled into us. And then after leaving that project and coming back and seeing some construction sites, and I was like, oh my God, like look at what these people are doing. Like it was horrifying.
I know. It's like crazy, crazy.
Yeah. So in closing, what I'd love to hear is if there was like some awesome Tracy words of wisdom that, you've always thought to yourself, man, if I could just tell people this, what would that be? And it could just be a word, a phrase, a sentence, or, whatever it is. What's your words of wisdom that you would love to pass on to people?
I think the key one is, and I struggled with that until probably the last few years. Believe in yourself because you know it and you know you can do it. You just got to back yourself.
Mm, I love that. I love that. And we all have those I guess you could call it a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it is just having a little bit of faith in your own ability as well. So
Yeah, and I think don't wait till you're my age to realize that. Know it now and believe in yourself because you've got it.
with that, let's just extend that a little bit more. How could people actually learn to do that?
Like they say, knowledge is power. Know your stuff
Mm,
and guarantee you'll back yourself. I think until I could 100% believe what I know was when I backed myself.
mm,
But don't wait for 4 years to the end of your apprenticeship because you already know where you want to go. And that's the key element, I think. If you 100% know where you want to go, you've already got the power.
mm. Yeah.
Knowledge will come, just back you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Well, look, Tracy, you are incredible with what you're doing and the difference you're making in the industry, just even from what I've learned from this conversation, is amazing. And, we definitely need more safety people like you who come from from a place with their heart and approaching people in a way that, not that adversarial approach, but that peer approach as well. Thank you for all the incredible work that you've done to help support those women in the industry as well, because you've made a difference for them. And just so honoured to have you here and to be able to talk to you. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for asking me to join.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode today. I hope this conversation gave you something that you can take with you, whether it be a little bit of insight, inspiration, or maybe just a reminder that you're not alone. If it resonated with you, please share because we're better when we help build each other up. And remember that your experience, your story, and your journey, it all matters more than you know. Until next time, stay kind, stay connected, and never forget you are epic.